Welcome back to the White Gray Black Weekly Manga Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about all of your favorite ongoing Japanese manga. My name is Bruce. I am the proprietor of the White Gray Black YouTube channel. With me again this week is my sidekick, Gautam.
Here to say the day. Hello.
This week, we're going to take you on a tour of superhero manga and how they have some big issues for us as readers. We'll start out with chapter 406 of My Hero Academia, take a look at a series that we praised very highly a few months ago, which is maybe falling from grace a little bit. That's Vibration Man, chapter 27, and we will finish it off with a nice solid slice of clean dessert of One Punch Man, chapter 196. All that, anime announcements, manga news, and more coming right up. So let's get right in with My Hero Academia. This is chapter 406, Kohei Horikoshi. Gautam, I was about to say we're at the climax of the current arc, and I was going to say, no, we're nearing the climax, but I think the real answer is we have been in the climax for easily 3 months now, for a long ass time. This arc has pacing issues because I think we need a little bit more breathing room between some of these things. But this chapter in particular, I think we both thought was pretty decent compared to some of the earlier ones. So
yeah, it's kind of complicated to compliment My Hero Academia when I find so much of it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But I truly thought this was a great chapter. And like, this was a fun as fuck chapter, and I'm not even a Bakugo fan. I don't even like that character very
same.
much.
Bakugo is... I do think that the fight between Deku and Bakugo, which is like a little less than halfway, it's like chapters 140 or something like that. That is, I think, the peak of My Hero Academia. I think that is the best part of it. I think that happens after All Might kind of does his big last stand and takes down All for One.
That was a really good fight.
That is a great fight. And that is maybe the last time I thought that Horikoshi had the time to really sort of choreograph a fight in a really smart way. And the paneling there, I think, is good. I think a lot of that he's lost as time goes on, just because I think he's working a little bit more
I think he's burnt out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, 406 chapters, right? I mean, that's more than 8 years My Hero Academia has been out. I think chapter one might have been 2014, so I might be right at 9 years. But yeah, but anyways, this chapter is good. I didn't really care about the first couple of pages where it's sort of like, it's the sort of newscast over the whole fight I don't jive with that. That doesn't really matter. I think this.
Who cares? You're right.
Yeah, it's sort of like okay, get us up to date with where everything's going, and all that stuff. But
yeah,
this panel,
of course, yeah, this is a good panel.
This is a great spread. Yeah, all the negative things that we have said in the past about My Hero Academia and its sort of pacing and plotting and character and all these little issues we have with it, the art remains fantastic. I think the art in Weekly Shonen Jump is probably still the best. I can't think of anything else that has better, just sort of, in inner panel art, I guess I would say. Because yeah, this is sick. It like Deku with the ex-user of the past that's giving him the danger sense, whatever, behind him, Shigaraki, Bakugo, and then All for One.
Yeah, that looks great.
It's and the like go beyond. That's like, it's classic. It's the catchphrase. This is great. I could just leave it here.
And it's a good catchphrase. It's weird. We live in a bizarro world because we brought My Hero Academia and Vibration Man, and the last time we did that, we were pretty sour on Hero and pretty damn glowing on Vibration Man. And I think today's a little bit of opposite day.
It is, yeah.
When I read this chapter, I'm like, I go into every Hero chapter expecting to just either be bored or like, ugh.
I get confused and messed up because I think it's really messy a lot of the times, even though it's like, oh, that's a really cool art piece or maybe one really cool panel, but it's like, how did we get there? I think the action, the problem is it's like a huge action climax thing, and the action is often not paneled very well. So that's how I usually feel when I read it.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to see. It's like a game with a bunch of particle effects, right? It might look beautiful, but it's like hard to tell what's going on sometimes. but yeah, effectively, this was just fun as fuck. Bakugo is just, I don't know why he's so, I didn't understand the explanation of why his power works better now or his power up, but I don't think that really matters. Who cares about any of that? At the end of the day, he's just fucking bouncing around going crazy.
Yeah.
Dude is fighting like a maniac, and I think that's great. This is his Captain Explodo Murder, whatever his hero name is, suits him pretty well.
Yeah.
Dude, he's like unhinged this chapter, and this is my favorite page.
Yeah, these pages I loved.
Where All for One is zooming and obviously underestimating every human being he sees, including Bakugo. And the dude jump scares the final boss in the top left panel. It's like a horror movie panel.
Or even in the top right panel where he's like, huh, what? Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. This is like the face of like in a slasher movie, a victim about to get murdered. And the killer's face probably looks like that in the slasher movie.
It's like
too.
a killer clown from behind where it's like, oh, he's got a smile on his face. Yeah,
I appreciated that. It's just like All for One has been such a shithead and so cocky and self-assured. It's nice seeing Bakugo kind of make him shit his pants
unnerve him a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and something else that's great, and this happened with the past, I don't know, like 7 or 8 chapters maybe had a lot of good All Might stuff in it, where he made All Might like look really wild and crazy-eyed also. This like sort of this top left panel of Bakugo here also, Horikoshi somehow just draws these characters like really well. Like if a character goes like wild and unhinged, and I think thinking back now, even all the way back to like Stain, right? Who's like one of the maybe the first kind of big bad to show up, first or second. Stain also had this kind of like unhinged open mouth look, and that was a great design character. I think people really like Stain. I know I did. In the sort of early seasons because I was watching the anime at the time.
This is something Hori's consistently good at is character design and costume design. Like he just has it. He has the talent. Just like regardless of what you want to say about Bleach and Kubo, which are kind of similar things said about My Hero nowadays, Kubo also had that. So yeah. Hori's masterclass, man, at this.
He's great, but even just taking a character, I mean, Bakugo's design hasn't changed, but the way that he sort of is like drawing him in a more crazy style, and it was kind of the same with All Might, right? Like All Might's face design didn't change, but in those past chapters, he made him look crazier and messed up, and something about that, like I think Hori really likes doing that, or maybe he's just really good at it. I don't know, but every time that happens, it's like, it's just awesome. Like, because you're right. I really like Bakugo here. Something I really like story-wise that isn't, it's hard to praise because it isn't.
Before you get to that, I want to say my favorite example of what you just mentioned is actually Deku's shitty ass costume that his mom made. I hate that costume. When he goes edgy boy mode, it's the same costume, but designed with like dark lines and colors to make him look like a edgy little guy. And I thought that was like a really good redesign of a design that already exists.
You're absolutely right. That is, it does make it look much cooler, even though that whole arc I thought was bad.
It was bad.
The character design of Deku there is much better. Yeah. But, what I wanted to mention was, like I was saying, I don't know if it's totally backed up by all the writing up to this point. It's My Hero, so it's probably not, but I like, and especially on this page, I went back to it, right, with sort of the two good guys, 2 bad guys facing off. The sort of symmetry of, okay, it's Deku versus Shigaraki, and then it's Bakugo versus All for One. That's really cool. I wish it had been set up better, because I think if it had been set up better as more of Bakugo is going to be the one who's up there with Deku and is going to be the one who's going to, take on the responsibility of fighting the big bad. If that had been sort of set up and if we got there in a better way, I'd feel even better about it. But I do think that, like, at the end of the day, Bakugo is the sort of second most important school hero character in the series, right? I mean, and like I said, I think this is really cool if you flash all the way back to the Bakugo and Deku fight, 180 chapters ago or whatever it was, because they face off against each other. They haven't like fought since then, right? They've kind of been more on the same team. Stuff has converged. I just think it's really cool to have, you know, as opposed to this all just being all Deku versus Shigaraki, or kind of doing, which is kind of where I thought we were going, and we did that for a little bit. Again, really
this
uneven
is
arc overall.
a pacing nightmare. We should the Deku versus Shigi should have all the time in the world, right? This should not be like flashed back to every once in a while. I don't even know what's going on in that fight. Yeah.
We got an All for One flashback in this chapter, which was a little weird.
I do like that in this panel though, it's like the Shigaraki and Bakugo look like the villains if you have no context of the for the series. Arguably Bakugo looks like more of a villain.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I just think it's how do I say it? It was well crafted in this chapter, and especially with some of these things that, okay, maybe the next couple of chapters are going to be like a two-sided fight, right? Like we're going to see two fights at the same time against essentially the two big bads. Because I always thought it was really strange leading up to all this, because I was like, oh, okay, yeah, it's going to be Shigaraki. He has the powers of All for One. That's just, there's a singular big bad guy. And then this arc kind of threw my expectations and said, no, like All for One is a separate bad guy with his own body, and Shigaraki, but Shigaraki also has all the powers. And so there's sort of like two big bads, where I thought there was just going to be one. So I wasn't sure how they're going to handle it. And I think this is a good answer to it, right? Because you think, oh yes, there is one lead main superhero class, one superhero schoolboy character, and it's Deku. And this is kind of a reminder of like, well, but Bakugo is very much sort of like that. There's the secondary protagonist of this story. So I like all of that.
You know, I kind of take umbrage with a lot of stuff about this, but I don't need to go over it because we already have. But I think one point I have an issue with is how good Bakugo is, right? Deku's supposed to be the genius here, or like the hard worker who's taking all the notes and all that stuff, and he was given the god hack power, the best fucking quarterback.
Yeah.
And Bakugo is ass pulling his way to the same power level.
Well, no, hold on. Okay, first of all, before you go on, everybody get in the comments, because I know you're going to say what I'm about to say. Bakugo is ranked number 2 in Class A as far as grades go. Bakugo is not he's
no slouch.
He's a hothead, but he is not an idiot, right? Like he is still smart. He is still powerful. He still is he is not the last place meathead that a lot of. He seems to be a lot of times. So that's my response.
But I suppose how I feel about this is that it feels like Bakugo is the main character, because Deku is the one who got the handouts. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that he's here. Bakugo is the one who busted his ass to get here. So I get why Bakugo is so beloved, but it just makes Deku look even worse than he already is.
Yeah, and you're hitting on an issue that I think you and I and a lot of people, or at least a large chunk of people, have with sort of where the story went after kind of the halfway point. Because it used to be, okay, Deku has this extremely strong power, but it is like very detrimental for him to use it. It's very bad for him to destroy his body. He can't, he has his limits are kind of very low in using the power, right? He can do like one big punch and he's done. And so he was very much an underdog, or at very least he was a sort of untapped potential. But basically, as soon as that goes away, as soon as he can just use his powers without any retribution, and especially I would say after he unlocks the sort of like, by the way, you have 14 superpowers instead of just one, suddenly, Deku now becomes this like, oh, by the way, you're God. Like, you just have every power. You didn't really have to like work for any of the other ones. I would say that if he had just worked through having the super strength and having that affect his body, that would have been good, and say, oh, okay, he understands it now. He can control it. If he goes too far, it'll still break him. But we just kind of lost that thread, like about halfway through the story. Like we
lost Deku's personality along with that thread, because he doesn't have any stakes attached to his power.
Yep.
He could just use it freely. So Hori can't even write creative ways to use his power, because he doesn't have to work around anything.
Yeah,
he is just All Might again, And I think Hori went in initially with the idea like where Deku is using kicks and other things to compensate because he isn't All Might. He isn't just naturally gifted at this. So
he's a huge buff guy. Yeah, right.
Yeah. But I that flew out the window as soon as Deku lost the consequence of hurting himself and also gained all those other powers. It's like, you have no reason for the character to strategize his abilities.
It's just
he doesn't.
Can he move fast enough? Can he punch hard enough? Can he dodge the other guys? Yeah, it simplifies stuff. You're right. That is a big problem because I really like Deku generally. I would say like definitely up through the Yakuza and then the sort of, what's it called? The school festival arc after that. And even up through his fight with Bakugo, which I think is...
It's because you have to think about it.
After
like, do you remember the tournament arc in the school?
Yeah, which is like the best part of My Hero Academia. Like, probably
it was such a good part, and like one of my favorite parts. It wasn't even a fight; it was like them doing a race at the beginning.
Yeah, the very first test. Yeah, or second.
Deku didn't even use his powers really. He just pulled up a riot shield and bounced through a minefield by using the riot shield. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he didn't even use his powers. He just used his brain. And I'm like, that is badass. That was like one of my favorite Deku moments. And you never get that anymore because he doesn't have to think outside the box. He can brute force everything.
And he hasn't had to do for a long time now. I would definitely say, and I remember because we sort of became friends right around the time that I think the Yakuza arc was ending. And we talked about this as we read it. We both had big complaints about how, what's the little girl's name? How Eri was just time reversing and letting Deku go all out. At the time, I think that's sort of better than where we are now, obviously. Like, okay, having to have like a second person with you to do that. But a lot of people had some issues with the climax of that arc because it was all, well, Deku was supposed to have to deal with all this body damage. That's the interesting thing. He can't go too hard or he'll, kill himself or break his arms or destroy his body or whatever. And Eri's just reversing that. And while kind of in hindsight looking back, I go, yeah, but that's a pretty cool way to do it, right? That's a pretty cool way to say, hey, temporarily you don't have these things, go all out. The problem is after that arc, he just hasn't, it's like he hasn't really had to go all out, but also there's been no repercussions to his strength power. There's been like no real damage to his body other than the couple times he's gotten, beaten up in a fight or hurt or whatever. And it's just, just removed all that complexity, all that character, removed all the smarts he had to use to try to fight around it.
Well, he's like pushing his limit right now. He's like beyond all out, but we don't feel any tension because like in our mind, it's like, what is Deku going to do? He's going to punch even harder or get another reserve. Like there's no strategy that he'll come up with. At least that's how I feel about it. Right?
I mean, and so I'll even throw it back for comparison to the sports festival, right? Which is Todoroki versus Deku, which I think a lot of people love that fight because that might actually be the best part of the whole series. But
yeah, the Bakugo versus Deku fight is comparable, but I think that is the best fight of the series due to also the emotional stakes and character stuff going on during the fight. Yeah, very good.
And the comparison I wanted to make was in that fight, Deku is using his fingers to do the flicking thing, right? And every time he does it, it breaks one of his fingers. So he has 10 shots that he can use, and he's down to the last one whenever the end of the fight happens. And here we see him, it reminded me because he's doing a little finger
and the dude re-breaks his fingers. He re-breaks like his already broken fingers to use extra shots. It's like, that is peak Deku. That is hardcore insanity Deku. And I love that. That was cool.
And it's such a good fight. And here it's like, okay, he's fighting the final boss. Like, he doesn't have any broken bones. I don't think he has any nothing is ailing him. He hasn't hurt himself trying to go too far. This is like the whole point. Okay, I'll tie this all back together and we'll wrap up My Hero Academia. On this page, it even says go beyond. And go beyond insists that there is a limit which you then surpass. And I think that if you remove that limit and there is no limit, you cannot go beyond. That's why My Hero Academia is bad. Thanks for watching this TikTok.
It's funny you mentioned. Yeah, technically they're all going past their limits, but now it feels like assholes. Like I don't know how Bakugo got stronger. He explained it's like, oh yeah, now that my body hurts, the blowback got easier to calculate. It's like
I don't even think that's it. I think you're wrong. I don't know what it is, but that doesn't sound right to me. Maybe it is. I don't know.
I don't think Horikoshi fully cares or understands how this power up works. So I, as the audience, I'm just going with the flow, right? Like, I'm like, okay, well, whatever. Bakugo's stronger now. Let's just go with it.
Sure.
But yeah, I feel like we ended up complaining about Hero Academia again. But
it's, this chapter,
I'll end it on a positive note. I thought this chapter was very good and very fun. And I wish more of the series was like this.
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird thing to say because, every time we talk about My Hero Academia, we bring up all the issues about it, but we're both still reading it. And we're both still reading it because chapters like this exist. It's like every once in a while you get one and you're like, that was sick. That looks great. I mean, I still adore the art. Every week I read it. But yeah.
I feel like we're being fair at least.
I think so. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of you listening or watching here that might like My Hero Academia more than we do. And that is okay. I mean, it's a massively popular series. It's probably the most popular modern day shonen, I would say, of the past 10 years. But yeah, I mean, that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, well, let us know, huh? If you like the show, what do you think about like some of the points you made regarding like Deku and his power spikes?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of like the biggest one for me is just Deku's development and how it kind of changed the flow of the whole series.
Yeah, because a lot of the side character stuff is fun and interesting, and even though I think Hori does have an issue kind of balancing multiple storylines often, especially in this big climax thing. Just pacing wise, and guy relies on flashbacks and like the worst, like is a crutch. I will not go back to the start of the whole, what is it, the attack on the hospital, where it's like the opposite
of what we said last
boom,
week. Yeah,
we're at a hospital, and then it's like, okay, the start of the next chapter is flashback to 6 days ago, and then during that flashback, you get flashback to 2 weeks ago. I think we talked about that one maybe last year when it happened, but
there was one. There was also one with like Hawks. And anyway,
that's what I'm talking about, where it's like when he gets revealed to be Hey guys, Bruce here popping in to say that since we recorded this video on the 15th of November 2023, we have found out that Vibration Man is in fact axed or ending just a week from now. Keep in mind that we did not have this information when we first recorded this episode and could not re-record this whole part. I think you can see from our conversation that we guessed this might have been the case. Thanks and enjoy the rest of the episode. But yeah. All right. So on the other side, good My Hero Academia chapter, some good stuff happening. I hope it continues its quality. There is Vibration Man. This is by Toki Iwai. This is chapter 27. You're right. The last time we sort of paired these two up together, which was maybe 3 or 4 months ago, in spring or summer sometime, we were like, hey, My Hero Academia sucks. We hated this chapter. It was all bad. Good art. Look at Vibration Man. Vibration Man is great. Vibration Man is great. It's doing all these great things. We have this underdog protagonist who's goofy and silly. We understand why he's doing it. It has good writing. All these side characters seem good. And now I don't know about Vibration Man. They changed some things since last time. So if you aren't up to date, they did, I guess, a little bit of a sort of time skip. They kind of, and this is, I guess, the big issue that I have with it. They skipped all the development of our main character powering up. He just sort of learned to be super powerful and is now like God level fighting everyone. And that's like the part I was looking forward to, because I thought it was developing and I thought he had this sort of like shitty little power that's not supposed to, doesn't seem like it's going to be that strong, or you can see its potential, but he hasn't tapped into it yet. And they just kind of skipped over the like discovery period and were like, okay, he's very strong and fast and can do everything now with his power.
And he knows how to use like his power perfectly as well. Because even someone who did get their powers all at once should be struggling to like use it properly. Like, let's take Spider-Man, for example. Like, even Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, right? Like, he was like, has the reaction time. Yeah, but he sucks at being like swinging around and just normal superhero stuff. What is it? Is his name Ayumu? Is this the main character?
Susumu?
Susumu. I'm thinking of the
Susumu. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Susumu. Yeah. He just knows how to use everything perfectly. He has super speed, super perception, super strength.
Yeah.
He got all of his powers at once, like Bruce just said, and he's like perfect with them, and this is over the course of 2 chapters, which is why it's odd that we're suddenly negative on it. This happened very fast.
Yeah, like, I mean, this happened, I think, maybe 4 or 5 chapters ago. Maybe like 6 or 7, like 2 or 3 months ago. It just like happened. It skipped everything. Suddenly he was like ultra powerful, fighting off, protecting people. Yeah, I mean, even just to compare it to Deku, right? Like Deku, when he starts out, when he gets that power, using that power hurts him and he doesn't know how to control it. And while we do mention, that eventually that stuff kind of goes all out the window, early on, he is definitely learning like, okay, I need to use kicks more. I need, this specific piece of gear to help me with this thing. If I go, he does the full cowling, he gets like a little power-ups along the way. And this is just like, it felt like it was going to be really good 3 months ago. And then they just kind of skipped all the stuff that I was really looking forward to them doing, where he like discovers, oh, I can use vibration to make my body stronger, or I can use vibration to move really fast by, reducing friction with vibration, which is like a real thing, right? These are all things that I know enough about the way vibration, works IRL, that I was kind of looking forward to. And instead it just skipped all that and said, okay, yeah, you can do all that now. And didn't really describe it. Just kind of, yeah, I don't know.
Before he fought this guy, he was just dumpstering like high grade villains and stuff.
Yeah, well, this guy's also like a high grade villain that he just dumpsters in this chapter. So,
well, at least this one got like development. The others were like one panel dumpstered, like
or like off screen even,
or off screen. Yeah, exactly. And they skipped the tournament arc that they were having.
Yeah, they also yeah, I forgot they also did that. They're like, I don't remember if I actually left a Reddit comment or I just thought about it, or maybe we talked about it. But
we talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about it because people were saying like, oh my gosh, because at the end of one chapter they tell you like, oh, Susumu like wins this fight, that's about to happen, and it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they just skipped this. And I was like, no, don't worry, they're not going to skip it. It's going to be in the next chapter, and it was the next chapter. Shit.
We were like, wow, talk about putting the cart before the horse. It's like, you think they won't go back to this?
Yeah, like you think they're not going to go back and show the fight? And they did. And it was like 4 pages of the chapter and it was over really fast. And I almost wish they had just skipped it. Yeah, it's so weird. I wonder, it's so weird.
And it's like, the odd part about that is that they replaced interesting content with more boring content.
Yeah.
Like, why introduce side characters? They didn't get fully developed. They only started to get developed, and then the author was like, "No, fuck this. Susumu wins. He's super strong now. He's just killing."
They've only focused on him. We haven't seen any other real side character stuff.
I don't know what happened.
I'm really curious. I wonder if this is a sales or pressure thing, but usually Jump Plus doesn't matter for that. I mean, I definitely know that this is in the West on Manga Plus. I know that this has more readers than a lot of other stuff published, around the same time. Something else I wanted to mention, just to kind of make a little comparison. So speaking of sort of like a main character with a like quote unquote stupid or bad power, I always think about Luffy from One Piece, right? He has what you would think of as he's like gum and rubber. That's okay. That doesn't seem very strong. But the cool thing about Luffy
did you intend to make that Hunter x Hunter reference?
No, I don't make Hunter
that is the biggest. You just accidentally made like the biggest bungee gum has the properties of rubber and gum reference. Anyway,
I thought that was the thing they say about Luffy. Is that like a thing from Hunter x Hunter that is like put on?
Hisoka says it like a million times in Hunter x Hunter. Yeah.
Okay. I think that I have absorbed that meme through proximity without knowing what it was. I always thought people just talked about Luffy and that he has the properties of rubber and gum. Like that's just a thing.
It makes sense that you would think that he is rubber and he says gum all the time, right?
Right. So. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Anyways, the cool thing about Luffy and his power ups is that when you get to Gear 2, which by the way is like 400 chapters in, I don't know, maybe like 250 chapters in. When you get to Gear 2, it explains to you how it works, and you go, oh, that's really cool. And then when you get to Gear 3, it is an expansion on Gear 2. And then when you get to Gear 4, it's an expansion on Gear 2 and 3, and how that works. And then you get to Gear 4 Snake Man, and you go, oh, okay. And he's added this other thing on top of it. He's learned to use, X power better and better. That's how you do powering up a weird character, right? You say, I mean, and I can even tell you how to do it for Susumu, right? He has vibrations. The first thing he should learn is that if you're getting hit and you vibrate, the hit can't, fully
That's
connect
perfect.
and give all its power into a thing. So you're more durable. If you want to move fast, right? Vibrations reduce friction in things. I'm trying to think of an example where you could see this, but like, I don't know. It's hard to think of an example, but like, again, if you vibrate yourself, you have less friction. You should be able to move really fast. That just sort of like, even though, you'd have to, the science of it doesn't really work, but inside a superhero comic, who cares, right? Like, and you would
Yeah.
think that he would sort of learn like, oh, I know that my vibration can do this. And then, maybe from being able to sort of low friction himself, that means that he can, punch faster or move, a part of him faster to hit harder, or, transferring, focus all the vibration into his hand when he punches, and that, rocks the world of the other person. There's all these like little steps that they should have taken, and they skipped every single one of them. He just like gets powerful in one chapter and then has been overpowered since then. And it's so
Well, this is he's not like he doesn't feel like a Vibration Man anymore. He just feels like Deku.
it's just like Superman, yeah, or just like I have super strength and super speed, and I can
Yeah,
do whatever. Yeah,
I
he's
I know
not
that
even using
like
the vibrations creatively. Like we would think, oh,
I
break the
know.
ground under the enemy by shaking the ground under him, or like throw a guy off his footing by vibrating the ground when he's about to hit me. Like there's all these creative things that you could do with his power, and they weren't doing any of them. You're right. He's just Deku. He's just Superman. It's disappointing.
I don't. Yeah, and like it, in regards to power creativity, that aside from him just rushing his powers, the power creativity is a huge issue. You're right,
Mhm.
because he's just Deku, and I kind of wished that they would go more of a Whitebeard angle with this. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be like the earthquakes breaking the glass and shattering everything, but like I don't want him to have super speed. Like
Yeah.
I know it makes sense, but like
Well, like the super strength one makes less sense, right? The super speed is one is like, I get it. You vibrate, reduce friction. That one makes sense to me. Super strength is like, maybe, I don't know. You shouldn't be that strong. So I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. I don't know what it's doing. I mean, there's some cool paneling here. I like this grand press thing. That's a cool thing. And then, oh yeah. And then not to mention all of this, he's doing all of this while he has this limiter on his neck. And then in this chapter, he's just like, quite literally, is it Dragon Ball Z where it's just like, take the limiters off? Or no, that's the Naruto thing, maybe, right? Is it the Rock Lee that drops the weights? Dude literally
Right.
does
He
that in
does
this
that.
chapter. He's just like, oh, I'll just take my neck brace off and completely overpower you. This is also, I love this panel right here. This is really cool with the hiragana here, like put over the panel. This is great. I love this.
I see. I think there are a lot of things about this that still do work. Like
Yeah.
aside from what we described, I think all of the characters are still fun.
Yeah,
I
and the
don't. I
main
don't.
character still has a good personality. It doesn't really detract from that, this sort of power creep
Yeah.
skipping thing, but
I think it is more of the meta issue that I'm
Yeah.
having.
Yeah.
It is a meta issue, and it's a big meta issue.
Well, and it's also sort of like the wasted potential, which is what gets to me is that, 2-3 months ago when we talked about this, we were like, this is going to be great because it's handling all this stuff correctly. It seems really fun and funny. The main character had very like small progressions with his powers, where even though he sort of lost that fight, he like discovered something new and it was on the right path, and then something threw it off. I wonder if this is editorial intervention. I wonder if he got a new or different editor. I wonder if the sales were just like, hey, sales aren't low, like better go for it, and we'll give you 40 or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. There could be, because I think you're right that the issues are sort of the meta decision making. I wonder if there's some outside meta influence here. That's why this is kind of taking a turn here.
It does feel like that, right? Like someone's influencing this in some way, because this is just like a complete pivot from what we had earlier.
It
So,
definitely feels like
yeah.
like everything we've gotten since he sort of got his like super power up, it hardly even feels like the same series. And it was such a sharp turn. Yeah, I don't know. The turn felt so unnatural from where this series seemed to have been heading prior to that yeah, I don't know. Something happened. Either they told them, hey, you're going to get X amount of chapters. And he said, okay, I guess I got to, accelerate all this stuff, which is, likely and fair. Or if it's a different editor or what, I don't know.
Well, this chapter is called Conclusion, which is like a weird thing to name the conclusion of a fight 20 chapters in.
Yeah.
So I was like, is this getting axed? What's going on?
It's I don't know, because Jump Plus stuff usually doesn't get axed like that often. They're because they have unlimited sort of room on Jump Plus, right? Like usually, I mean, they'll let stuff that gets, barely any readers finish out their run or, do a year or 40 chapters or whatever. So 27 is also a weird number of chapters to cancel on, but who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? That's a weird one. Anything else on Vibe Man here?
I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go going forward. I don't think it's as bad, and I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's as doom and gloom as people are saying just yet, but I can see it going like downhill from here. So
well, and I also wonder, maybe the author said, well, I have to accelerate or I need to change things up and did this. And maybe he just needs time to sort of find a different groove or find a new challenge that the main character has to face somewhere in there with his powers. Maybe there's still room to grow. Maybe he's not creative enough with his powers. I feel like we need to see the main character lose. And then how is that handled after that? If the main character doesn't ever lose, then it's just canceled or over, right? But I feel like if we see Susumu lose and then have a need to like actually learn how to use his powers or be more creative or whatever, there's still an angle out here. I don't think you're right. It's not totally doom and gloom. It's not totally over. I still like the MC. I like his little girlfriend character. Again, the other side characters were all great. If they ever need to go back to those, they've got them there. So
yeah, there's not one unlikable character in my eyes. I think they're all interesting and good. This author,
he's a good writer.
I felt like he knew what he was doing. I just don't get this at the moment.
Yeah,
everything else worked.
Yeah, I mean, even the bad guy he's fighting here with the press powers, like even he's a pretty interesting character, like decent designed, got a little hat. Yeah. I don't know. Okay, let's talk about a good superhero manga then. Finally, we can end up.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully this gets better. Because
I hope it has a turn of some kind. Yeah.
Because we like it. It's just it did a weird thing.
Yeah, and we did get on this very last page a little tease of like, okay, here's the big bad. He's got some powerful lord, so
and a really shiny face. Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully when this maybe is revealed, and then one more complaint, they just make him a full-fledged hero when 10 chapters ago they were like, you are literally the worst in the incoming class. You are the lowest scoring of all things, and that's like, you're a full-fledged hero. Now you've skipped everyone else, and now you're the best. All right, let's get over to One Punch Man then. Yusuke Murata, artist, story by one. This is some good stuff. It's always good stuff.
It is always good stuff. I would say this is probably the most fillery chapter of One Punch Man we picked. It was still very fun.
A low action chapter for sure.
A low action chapter, not a fillery chapter. Yeah. But it fit the theme. So hell, let's roll with it.
Yeah, I enjoyed this chapter because One Punch Man between arcs tends to get really kind of not scatterbrained. It kind of goes off and does a bunch of little goofy stuff, little side adventures, which you've kind of been doing for the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 months with One Punch Man. We kind of finished a big arc and then have been kind of ditzing around doing some other stuff.
I love those, but I do know that some people are just in it for the action. I love the goofy side stuff, to be honest.
Yeah, well, and I think the thing that I really like is I really like long connected stories. So I like them getting back to a sort of streamlined, here's the plot, we're going to go do this, and it's going to take a couple of chapters to do that, which is kind of what this chapter is setting up, I think, right, with the Ninja Village and Blast and what's the Speed of Sound Sonic and all those guys,
and Flashy Flash and
Flashy Flash, yeah.
Yeah. I love this panel, the bottom right here, where they reference the little meta section from last chapter. It's like, so yeah, during those 3 panels where you were gone looking for Minako, it's so good.
Yeah, the fourth wall break with those panels. This is classic one humor here.
It is like a good gag on top of that, because it's very much like a no in writing, right? It's like, yeah, so while you were away, I did all this relevant stuff, but it's very much one saying, it's like, listen, I'm not going to bore you with how how any of this stuff happened. Here we are. Let's go. You know,
it's also it's a good gag because instead, I mean, they could have just said, well, you were locating Monaco. I went back to check on things. It's like, and that's
Yeah,
good enough. But like you can put a gag in there of like during the 3 panels, or if this is a book, you'd be like 6 page. During the 2 paragraphs while you were doing this, I did that. It's a gag. I like it. We've got another sort of big bad, I guess, revealed here that we're probably going to see, who's the village elder who got monsterified, who is also Blast's ex-partner. Is that right? Or is
that's
it not,
correct.
Or is it just Blast's ex-partner who's not the village elder? I thought it was all of those.
It is all of those. The founder of the ninja village and Blast's ex-partner. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. His name is Empty Void, which
Perfect.
there were some jokes, I think, on the next page where they were like, oh, that's repetitive. That's like saying the cracked broken egg, or I don't remember exactly what they said, but
I like that Monaco says it, because it still stands to explain the joke to the audience, but it's from a character who is not aware of the redundancy of ninja names in this universe, whereas everyone else knows that they're all redundant as fuck.
Yeah. Speed of Sound, Sonic, Eccentric, Flashy Flash. They're all
and the 80 other ninjas from last chapter.
Yeah, and I don't remember all their names, but I remember they had some funny ones that were.
There's some really good ones.
There were some in there, but then we get the sort of letter from Sonic, right?
Yeah.
Time settled score. Come to my hideout. I wait you alone at the place where childish dreams are seen. We get a big flashback with Flashy Flash and Sonic talking about how they're both different. They're not under some. I don't know if it's implied to be like direct mind control, or if it's just like implied sort of, oh, they beat you down with hard training and everyone else's mind is broken, but our minds are not broken.
I think it's like that.
I think so too. But with a monster at the head of the ninja group, you never know, I guess. So
true.
But yeah, it has Flashy Flash and Sonic sort of making an agreement of like, I want to start a new spot for a new village, Sonic says, and points to a place on the map where it is. Flashy Flash goes to meet him there. This is a good ending to a chapter. I really like just the sort of like both drawing their swords, and honestly, Speed of Sound Sonic is one of the funniest, goofiest characters in One Punch Man.
He gets shit on nonstop, and I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah,
and I love that Speed of Sound Sonic is like insanely strong, right?
Yeah.
It's just like we see him as kind of a weak loser because he only fights Saitama.
Yeah, and it's also like we mention a lot that we like the sort of weak character failing upwards is a funny trope, and I like that Speed of Sound Sonic is on the other end, where it's like an incredibly strong character like failing downwards, is never able to like get their way,
spiraling. His life is spiraling out of control,
like just made fun of by everyone, gets captured by the other shitty ninjas, like. Yeah,
he tries to turn himself into a monster, gets like stomach pains.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Throws it up. He's like just running. I remember there's one chapter where he's just like doing something. He's like running, and he slips on a dog turd, and his own shurikens hit him and blow him up. And I'm like, dude, this guy's life just sucks.
Yeah, it's very very like did you ever see Mr. Magoo, or do you know who?
Yeah.
Very sort of like just. Nothing can go right for this guy. So I'm fully prepared for him. I haven't read the webcomics, so I don't know where this goes, but I'm fully prepared for him to either lose to Flashy Flash or to just have some third party come in and ruin the fight and allow him not to win. Or he is a negative pressure to himself, and he does not, he like slips on something and kills himself, or not kills himself, but
he has strong bones, I guess. Like he's still alive.
He's still alive. So
I don't know. I can't speak to his balls though. I think those are just gone for good. Yeah, I can't speculate because I know what happens in the webcomic, and with that said, I have no idea if that's how it goes here. So we'll see.
Yeah, they do change stuff up a little bit sometimes.
Quite often. Yeah, quite often. Like it's like this has been quite faithful to the webcomic as after the Garo arc.
I've heard the last couple of chapters. Yeah, after the Garo stuff ended, I've heard that it's been
there's
pretty
new
faithful
stuff in there, but yeah, it's been faithful. So I anticipate it going the same way. But yeah, I don't know. I do love the Flash Saitama dynamic, the Flashy Flash Saitama dynamic of quote unquote mentor protege that he thinks it is.
I like that too. It's a fun play on the sort of Geno Saitama. Yeah, I was like, what's the robot's name? Yeah. Genos and Saitama thing, but it's also like it creates a rivalry between Genos and Flashy Flash and like tension between them. It's fun. Also,
it is like a hilarious mirror because like Genos sees him as a mentor and Saitama is just like, okay.
he's like
and Flashy Flash sees him as a protege and Saitama still doesn't like, he's never agreed to anything. He's just thrust into these situations.
Yeah, which is, it's Saitama is a great character and unique in a lot. There's not a lot of stories that have protagonists like Saitama. It's one of the reasons I think One Punch Man is so good, especially when Saitama is heavily involved, which he isn't always, right? But I think that when Saitama is at the forefront, it is especially good.
Yeah, he's a very Jack Sparrow-like character where if you use him too much, the bit wears off, you know?
Yeah.
You have to kind of establish your setting, your arc, your stakes, and then use him towards the end of it. Or and it's something like that.
Yeah, and One and Murata are really good. They're really good at that, right? Because you'll spend tons of chapters about reading about serious. I'm trying to think of like in the monster, I don't remember the name of the arc, but where like Tatsumaki is fighting the other big psychic girl, and there's all this like kind of super serious, like straight across normal, superhero, supervillain versus stuff, threat to the world. All the tank top guys are there, and it's like mostly completely serious, and then you would cut to like Saitama and Flashy Flash, and Saitama is just like being goofy or like talking to a monster, or he works. You're right that he doesn't work if Saitama is sort of always on screen, always a presence, but One Punch Man is so good about setting up these kind of like hyper serious situations, and then Saitama is there to like dissolve the tension, relax the scene, the tension in like such a fun and funny way.
Exactly. Like if he's there all the time, there's no tension. There's no stakes.
Exactly.
Saitama resolves everything.
Yeah.
One keeps him away. And it helps that Saitama has no ambition and he's also very dumb. Like, he doesn't get to the right spot. He mentioned this Saitama himself mentions this quite a bit, but he never gets to the fight in time ever.
Right, yeah. Because if he was there at the start, it would just be over, which is like a...
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting. You said something that reminded me that Saitama is like always there to resolve the tension. I think that's a really smart angle, because if they set up all this seriousness, Saitama comes in with his silliness and relaxes that tension. Or if they build up a big fight that Saitama has to enter and everyone else has been defeated, right? Like with Garo, right? Like they've built this all up. Okay, we get serious face Saitama. He does the fight and he's going to relieve that tension, right? So Saitama is the ultimate sort of like pressure release valve for a story. And the way that One and Murata use him is just masterclass.
It is so good. Like I think a good example of this is early on during the Seeking arc, because it just showed everyone like trying their hardest, getting close, but ultimately getting whomped by the Seeking. And towards the end of that arc, no one was close. No one was even close to being on the Seeking's power level. And then Saitama, I think that Saitama's punch was the most anticlimactic punch. He punches a hole right through him and doesn't even address the Seeking or anything he's done that arc.
Yeah, he just got him.
He's like, okay. Because that's what it is. It's just a everyday goon that Saitama is fighting. Where it's like a world threat to everyone else.
Yeah, just like took out Genos, took out all the other. There was some other A class I think that he took out, but I don't remember. But
Sonic was putting up a fight.
That's right.
Sonic had to run.
Yeah.
There was Puri Prisoner who.
That's
lost.
the other one. Puri Prisoner. Yeah, was the other.
Yeah.
One. Yeah. I mean, it's just it's really. I hadn't thought about it in that way until you mentioned it, but yeah, he's just. There's One Punch Man is really good at building up really good tension of lots of different kinds, like lots of diverse types of tension. And then anytime Saitama enters into any of those, he is almost always a release valve, either, like I said, either like making a joke to relieve some seriousness or to kill them, fight the thing off. And, that tension is then released. And that's why like the pacing and the flow of One Punch Man is so good, because you're constantly getting tension building and release, which is like just a very standard storytelling flow to stick to. Like going all the way back to My Hero Academia, that has been very high tension for a long, long time, and we have not gotten any release. And that, to me, that is sort of a poor pacing decision there. So
it also sucks that it kind of lost me on the stakes. Like I don't feel committed. I don't feel tense, like,
well, because when you're,
but yeah,
you do feel tense, and then you feel tense for so long that you're like, okay, I have to release, I feel tense no longer because I felt tense for so long, right? Like
that nothing means anything anymore. Yeah.
Right. You have to have, you have to have cold to experience hot, the good and the bad. It's like, if it's all one thing, eventually that one thing loses its power. Right. So
another manga, not to sidetrack too much, but another manga that did the pressure release plot point very well is the Skypiea arc of One Piece, where Luffy and
yes.
Enel, who just shit stomped every single person he came across, unbeatable character. Luffy and him were kept apart the whole arc. He has lightning powers, Luffy has rubber powers. Everyone can do the math. Mm. That's the reason why they were separated the whole arc. So at the end, when it came together and Enel seemed invincible, Luffy's rubber was such a great pressure release, because Oda did the Enel face, the gags, the ultimate pressure release. Classic.
Yeah. And again, that's a like sort of a multifaceted, where it's like the fight is over at the same time as you get a gag, and it's like, so you get all the pressure release of all the tension. Yeah, it's great. That's a perfect example of the sort of build tension, release tension. Yeah, super good. Anything else on One Punch Man? Anything else on superhero manga in general?
I love One Punch Man. Yes. And if you ever read the Reddit threads, ignore the webcomic readers who just bitch anytime anything from the webcomic has changed. They are not special. I am a webcomic reader. I am special though. So listen to me. Just enjoy the new One Punch Man. It's very good.
Yep. Cool. Let's go into the news, because there is a little bit of news this week. Top of the hour, Blue Box is getting an anime. Yay! I love Blue Box.
That's a slam dunk, right?
It should be. Yeah, it's excellent. I think we talked about it decently recently, like maybe a month ago. But yeah, it's just a super solid, like super good romance story, really good character writing, pretty good kind of sports background to it. I'm trying to remember the studio. They announced the two voice actors, and it's the girl who played Luluko. She's done other stuff. Tons of other stuff. Both these.
She's amazing.
Yeah, I think her name is Ruina. I don't remember exactly. I don't have it up in front of me, but her and then the main guy. I'm trying to remember if he had anything I could remember.
Wait, you're talking about Lilico from Space Patrol Lilico, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
I believe that voice actress is this character here. So yeah, this is a slam dunk. This should boost sales. I think sales are already really high for Blue Box. It's really good. If you are curious about Blue Box, go and find the one shot and read it. I think the series has kept up the same energy as the one shot. It's got Reiwa energy. It has really good quote unquote season 2 vibes. They have sort of progressed from being a first year boy and a second year girl to a second year boy and a third year girl. And I think they've introduced new great side characters. Side characters are all really good. And like, not to go too much into chapter discussion, but the most recent chapter, where they're very much doing the hidden relationship thing, minor spoilers, where they're like, hey, we don't know if we want to tell everyone. I have a really mature conversation where it's like, well, I don't really care if all of our friends knew, but the problem is we live together at home with your family, and they're afraid that if other people knew, their family would know, and then they wouldn't let her live there. And it's like, they want her to live there because they're dating, obviously. Living with your high school girlfriend sounds fucking rocks, sure. But so again, they had it's really mature, well-written characters, really great romance, pretty good sports stuff. Sports stuff isn't super the focus, but it is at times, and I think it's pretty well done. Character growth, it's great.
So the main character plays badminton, right? And I don't think I told anyone this, but I love badminton.
It's great.
I love playing it. I wanted more badminton, man. I thought there'd be more badminton.
There's not a whole lot. It's very much a background thing driving the character stuff. But
let me just say, there shouldn't be more badminton. This is perfect as is. Stick to the romance. But as a badminton fan, and there being no other manga about badminton, I was like, oh, show me more badminton, man. I want to see more of that.
I used to, for years and years, I would go over to my aunt and uncle's house. I had cousins over there, and they had a badminton net, and it was like every Christmas, every birthday that was over there, we would just mess around and play badminton. So yeah, it's great. I think it's especially great for like kids to play for whatever reason.
For sure, it's an insane workout too.
It can be, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see. What else do we have on the news? We have The Return. So there is a series called Nekotete by author Noble, who also did a series called Musuo Telepathy. Is going to be resuming after they reposted all of their current chapters, which only I think is about 40 or so. This is a sort of 4-koma comedy gag manga. The one that's resuming is about a cat who can transform into a girl, or a girl who can transform into a cat, both ways. But there's a boy who really loves cats and like finds her as a stray and loves her, and then she transforms into a girl, and it turns out they go to school together, and that's the cause of many hijinks. I just read this earlier today, so.
You think she shits in a litter box?
I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff that I think that they will address, because it seems like they're addressing some of the stuff. Like she's like, someone offers her chocolate and she's like, oh no, I can't eat that. It's like, yeah, because cats can't eat chocolate, and her diet is like all, she likes tuna and whatever else, all the cat treat that the main character had. So this is a cute one. Keep an eye out on it. Gautam, you've read Muso Telepathy, is that right?
Read all of it, baby. Even the epilogue, it was great. A few years ago, Tomo-chan and Muso Telepathy was like the biggest shit. It was the daily 4-koma magazine, or not magazine, manga that everyone on Reddit was reading every day to day. Discussions were huge. Threads were huge. It's a cute series. If you haven't read Muso Telepathy, go check it out. It is fluffy. It's light. It's fun. And honestly, surprisingly good character stuff.
Nice. I mean, that's kind of the same way I felt about Tomo-chan. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll read Tomo-chan. It seems like it'll be it'll be cute and funny, whatever. And it's like, oh, it actually does some pretty nice stuff in it.
Yeah. And there is this, like in Telepathy, there is this bitchy rival girl.
Oh, the blonde girl?
The blonde girl.
Yeah.
And everyone hated her, kind of. She was
the
annoying.
Readers, you mean, right?
Yeah, the readers, yeah. By the end of it, she's everyone's favorite character, bar none.
Ooh,
like, she's easily the best character, yeah.
Because I also went and read 20-ish chapters of this, which 20 chapters is like 20 pages. So it's like I read like one chapter of this, but
yeah, fair.
Also seems very cute. I mean, there's like 780 chapters, which are chapters, quote unquote, which really, if you scale it down, is probably something like 30 or 40 chapters to get through. So
I'm a huge fan of character redemptions, where if an author can make you go from hating a character to loving a character, that's talent.
Everybody loves a good Zuko, man. You can't.
And Zuko.
You can't.
Yeah, everyone loves.
Everybody loves a good Zuko. Everybody loves a character redemption.
And yeah, oh my God, Zuko is such a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so we got
agreed.
that. Let's see what else. I don't want to go into too much details on this, but I did want to mention it. Some information came out about the MAPPA adaptation of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. Apparently, overwork is a huge issue in Japan. And apparently this team, from what I understand, this animation team was responsible for Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1, the Jujutsu Kaisen 0 movie, Chainsaw Man, and then Season 2 of JJK, which I listed 4 pretty big projects. I think all 4 of those have been done in 3 years. And so they have,
it's good quality work too, right?
It is.
It's like they're stretched thin.
I mean, and that's the thing, is that a bunch of them came out and were pretty much like, hey, the next episode of Season 2, you're not going to get, because we are way overworked. Or I think you maybe not get the 2 episodes from now or something, but there was a big thread, I think it was one of the animators, and then 2 or 3 other animators came and chipped and threw their 2 cents in on Twitter. Basically, they said, like, we're way overworked. We've been way overworked for years on this team, right? Who's been doing, because, the normal production for an anime is something like, especially if it's like a 24 episode thing like Jujutsu Kaisen. I think Season 1 of Jujutsu Kaisen, they got like a year and 8 or 9 months. And then for the movie, they got like 6 months or like less than a year. And then for Chainsaw Man, they got like a lot less than that. And then for Season 2, they got like 4 months to work on it. So yeah, just increasingly more and more issues, a lot of them pointing at the CEO of MAPPA, who is taking a lot of the heat, at least from the comments and things that I've seen. He seems
as they should.
Right. So,
as the figurehead of a company, you
yes.
are there to take the heat when you are overworking your clearly incredibly talented employees.
Yeah.
They really need to fix whatever problem they currently have. Because I don't think season release matters as much as keeping the talent on. If you remember, these are all ex Madhouse employees.
A lot of them
that Madhouse dissolved, and a lot of them went to Mappa. You don't want Mappa dissolving, holding all these projects. You don't want Mappa dissolving because they burnt their talent out too much. You know?
Well, and we've made jokes in the past, or I have at least, about how, there's a new show getting adapted. Who's going to do it? It's like, it's going to be Mappa, right? Because they've just gotten like
they
almost
do
everything. Well, and so the reason for that apparently is that the CEO is like this greedy, money grubbing guy who doesn't, who will just work his talent as hard as he can and take as many projects as he can, because that makes Mappa bigger, Mappa more money. That means he has more money. So, because it's crazy for the past 2 or 3 years that it's like, okay, who's doing the next? Okay, they did Jujutsu Kaisen, they did Chainsaw Man, they've done what else did Mappa do? They grabbed up a bunch of stuff. And it's too much. So
I understand the thought process, but there's like a breaking point, right? Because he technically is a good business decision. He got all of the biggest IPs, manga IPs in the world right now, and he has them all under his company's umbrella and put them out at great quality. But of course, the breaking point was hit. You can't do it forever.
Well, it definitely kind of sounds like they hit a breaking point, about 2 or 3 years ago, which is when kind of people started to make the jokes about it. And it sounds like they've been at a breaking point for years now. At least the people who are tweeting about this Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 work. So
don't they have One Punch season 3?
They do. They have. I believe there's announced that they have One Punch season 3. Let me go to their Wikipedia real quick because I can see what they've got coming down.
I don't know how they'll do that. They're stretched.
Vinland Saga season 2, Lazarus.
Don't get me wrong. Like they had the talent to make One Punch Man season 3. Do they have the resources? I guess
Well, and do they have the resources to make One Punch Man season 3 and Chainsaw Man season 2 or the Chainsaw Man movie at the same time and Vinland Saga season 3 at the same time? And the thing is, they're going to try to do all that at the same time unless something changes here. So
and JJK and Attack on Titan. Oh, well, I guess
Titan's over, but you're right. They did also take Attack on Titan. Yeah, but now that that's done, then maybe that frees up some space for them. But yeah, best wishes go out to all those animators and everyone who is overworked in Japan, which I know is all of you. So
I'd like to plug undersubscribed YouTube channel called Animator Dormitory. It's on YouTube. It has like 50 subscribers, but it's a bunch of Japanese animators, independent animators, trying to make a living independent, and they animate their day in the life of an animator. So if you want a perspective on what working the Japanese animation industry is like, I would go to that YouTube.
Very cool.
It's very good. Yeah.
Yeah. There's been a lot of other stuff that you can definitely find, but yeah, Japanese animated dormitory. Check that out.
Yeah. I'll give me put a link in the description. I'll just this is such a good one. Yeah.
Link in the description. Send me that link and I'll remember to put it on there.
Okay.
Last thing I've got on the news is Weekly Shonen Jump, 2 new series coming out in issue 52, which is the last issue of the year, and then issue number 1 of next year. Those technically, I think, occur the last week of November and the first week of December, or maybe the last 2 weeks of November for us. I believe the issue that is coming out this Sunday, so the 18th or 19th for us, the 19th, should be issue 51. So then we should get, so there should be the 26th is 52, and then December 3rd is. So 2 new series there. We'll be talking about those on the podcast. The 2 new series announced are a series called Green Green Greens by Kento Terasaka. His previous work was called Beast Children. I believe that was in Weekly Shonen Jump or maybe on Jump Plus. That was a rugby thing. And the other on issue number 1 is called Rui Rui Senki by Kento Amamiya. They did a one-shot called Shikigami about a year ago. I went and read that, just curiosity. and I thought it was pretty good. Feels very much like a Chapter Zero intro to a shonen thing. The MC was hilarious and much different, even though kind of everything around him felt very typical. You can go check out that Shikigami work. If you search Shikigami Kento Amemiya, you should be able to find it. So yeah, 2 things coming up. We'll cover those in time. But that's it for the news. Anything else you wanted to call out there, Gautam?
Nope.
Cool. Let's move on to one more thing. So you and I went to go see this in theaters because I'm a big David Fincher fan. I think we both are. The Killer. It was an interesting movie. We spent a lot more time talking about it than maybe any other movie we've seen in years. I feel like there was a lot to talk about with this one. Really interesting movie. I liked it a lot. I think I've come down on. Actually, I liked that movie a lot. I think the thing you have to tell people, and I don't think it's spoilers, is I think you have to know going into The Killer. So most of David Fincher's movies are just sort of action thrillers, thriller, suspense type movies. This is a dark comedy. Yes, there is some thriller and action elements to it, but The Killer, I think straight up going into it, if you're going to watch it, is a dark comedy. If you know that, I think you will be prepared for what it is. I think you will enjoy it more.
I completely agree. I think it is. I don't think you will like the movie unless you either understand that through context or you go in with those expectations.
Yeah, because I think something that messed Gautam up when we saw this was that I was kind of expecting a thriller, some kind of thriller action suspense type movie. And it's actually just not that. And I would say that it does explain itself to you and show you what it is very early on, but it's kind of hard to break from. I've seen every other Fincher movie, and he's never really made a movie quite like this. Very different, very interesting. So I liked it a lot, though.
Yeah, and it was also very subtle, but it was kind of like it's hard to describe without.
It's really hard. Yeah, once you see it, you'll kind of you'll understand.
Take our word. Yeah. Take our word that it's a weird one and that it's good if you go in with the proper expectations.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you pull up this image I sent you?
Oh yeah, one sec. Yeah,
this is the TLDR of The Killer. He says of the movie, "I don't give a fuck," and then proceeds to give a fuck for the rest of the movie.
And that really is the crux of the comedy in the movie. Is that again, not too many spoilers. This killer tries to tell you the type of person that he is, and then proceeds to not be that person throughout the movie in a pretty funny and interesting way.
Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, good flick.
Yeah, really good flick. I definitely have come down on, I think, on the side of that. Actually, I really like that movie. Gavin, tell me about. You've been 2 days ago. You told me you were starting Fargo season 1, and now you've watched a little bit more, from what I understand.
I've watched up till season 3. I finished season 3. Fargo season 1 is, I'd say, masterclass television.
I've seen season 1, and it's very, very, very good.
It is great. The villain is kind of like a representation of the devil, it feels like. I mean, it's a human murderer, but like he's so evil that it's like borderline mustache twirlingly force of chaos. Like it's very the devil himself evil. Kind of,
it's very sort of mythological almost. In the
exactly. Yeah, he barely feels human sometimes, but I usually don't like those villains because they're too mustache twirly and they don't have the nuance or relatability that other types of villains do. But in this, he's perfect.
It's Billy Bob Thornton, right? You're talking about?
Exactly. Yeah, Billy Bob Thornton.
He's real good.
He is an amazing actor. He is unnerving every scene he's in. Every scene he's in is tense. And
funny, too. I remember there's a lot of just, again, sort of a dark comedy.
It is also a dark comedy. Yeah. Well, it's as funny as it can be, given the circumstances, and it is pretty funny. So,
okay, well,
season 1 is great.
Have you ever seen the Fargo movie, the original, quote unquote?
Funnily enough, I haven't not seen that movie.
Bro, okay. I love Joel and Ethan Coen's movies, and Fargo, in my opinion, is their best movie. I actually think Fargo is maybe one of my top 5 movies of all time.
Holy crap. I'll watch that.
Yeah, so it has some of the similar things with season 1, but it's pretty different, I would say. And it's so good. And yeah, because it's one thing I wanted to call out is that like Fargo is like a really hilarious dark comedy movie, but it's also kind of got that thriller suspense thing going on. You really need to go watch it. I don't think it influences any of the other seasons because I think season 2 and 3 are like flashback or like happen in the past, right? Or something like that. So
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's any commonality between like the seasons or the movie.
Only season 1 in the movie, but yeah.
They have like the same kind of universe. But season 1 is goddamn fantastic. Season 2 is also fantastic. Not as good as season 1, but very, very good. Amazing television. Season 3 was hot dog shit.
Ooh, really? Okay.
And I went to the subreddit because I'm like, because I want to see if other people aligned with my opinion and hated season 3. And that's everyone's favorite season. Everyone on that subreddit is like, oh, I love season 3. I fucking love season 3.
What?
It's so like cerebral. And they're using all these artsy fartsy words. And I'm like, you piss me off. You quit telling me how cerebral it is. Tell me what you like about it. Nothing works for me. So anyway.
Okay, that's the one with Ewan McGregor in it, right?
Is he in season 3?
Yeah. That's what this says.
Maybe he looks different. Oh, he is that? God damn, that is McGregor. Holy shit.
Yeah, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who's
He looks very different in Fargo, so I didn't put that together. I expect him to look like Jesus and Obi-Wan every single time. So
yeah. Oh, I forgot. Yeah. Okay. I'm looking at the wiki now. I forgot that this is Noah Hawley who does this, and he did the Legion TV show. Did you ever watch that?
I hear that was good. I hear it was cerebral as well.
Okay, yeah, it's very cerebral. It's very weird. I think I watched one season of it and was like, I don't think I liked watching it. It's really weird and out there. It's really interesting, I think, especially if you're into filmmaking and really different stuff, because it uses a lot of elements that are just not normal. Fargo has a little bit of that, but it's a lot more grounded, I would say. So
season 3 is not. It's very much
really weird.
It's weird.
Okay, then you might not like Legion, because Legion is really fucking weird.
Well, things can be weird and I can like them. Like I like Requiem for a Dream. That was very weird.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. This was just hot nonsense. Like I didn't like any of the characters. There's no one to say it's like, oh, I hope this character sees some form of success. It's like, no, I don't. I just don't give a shit if anything happens to any of them. I don't know. Season 3 was not my thing.
That's so weird. I'm like looking at the reviews. So okay, Fargo season 2 has the highest tomato meter. Season 1 is second. Then the movie Fargo. I don't know why they haven't ranked in here. Season 3 at number 4. Season 4 at number 5. So people tend to think that the 4th one is the worst one, and then season 3, and then 2 is the best. 1 is second best. So
shit, dude. None of them connect. If it's bad, just skip it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I kind of appreciate. There's been a lot more television recently. That's the sort of what do they call it? Where every season is just sort of its own little thing.
Standalone, anthology. It's an
anthology, yeah, anthology series, yeah. Because like American Horror Story is a big one that I know a bunch of my friends were into a couple of years ago. But cool, yeah, I should check out Fargo again. I should rewatch season 1 because I remember liking it a lot. So
you would love it. You'd love season 1 and 2, I think.
Yeah, I definitely should go watch it. Cool. Anything else, Gautam? You ready to sign off and call it quits?
Let's call it, man.
Cool. Let's get out of here. Hey, thank you again, everyone, for listening or watching. Don't forget to leave us feedback, comments, upvote, thumbs up, any positive reinforcement you can leave us. Please go do that. We really appreciate comments. Check out Twitter and Patreon, linked in the description, and Gautam's YouTube, which he's going to send me, also linked in the description, or the YouTube video that he suggested. Thank you again for being with us this week.
See you guys later.
And don't forget to read more manga.
You wanted to see if I'd remember to say goodbye, and I almost didn't.
I was like, if I pause, will he say it?
Yeah. Did you see how I kind of panicked and almost didn't say it?
A little bit, yeah. Well, that's why I put that little introduction in, but then I was like, I don't want to do that every time. It'd be like me telling you to say goodbye now, Gautam. Like,
goodbye now, Gautam.